Hey, what's up? I'm Emily Ronna, and I'm hanging with Rob on Front Row Live.
Thank you so much for introducing me to your music, because I know this is a debut single, but this is a really incredible debut single for you to be releasing. And I feel like it's so nerve-wracking kind of deciding what that first introduction of your music would be when you're about to release something. So talk to me about Someone Else, and like, why did you feel this song was, one, perfect to introduce the world to your music, and two, like, you started it with being so personal to your new fan base.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Rob, so much for having me. Super stoked to be talking to you. So Someone Else is very much, like, here are all my mental health problems on a silver platter. Hello. And I wrote it a year ago with another Nashville writer named Anna Klein. And I had been in a punk band a while before that, decided I didn't want to do the artist thing anymore. I was only going to write songs for other people. And then this was the first song I wrote in that year-long period where it was like, wait a minute, this is too personal. I think this is mine. Oh no. So when I finally realized that being an artist was just kind of like a necessity I had to keep doing this song first was a no-brainer, since it was the one that like kind of kicked my ass back into it. And I feel like a big part of my personality is I'm very open, maybe to a fault sometimes. So to do something that is really vulnerable and like will get people like a real vulnerable introduction to me also felt like the right decision. Just kind of throw it out there, and if you vibe with it, cool, and if not, better know now. So
That's one of those things about the song that it draws you in instantly, because you're like, the way you kind of wrote these lyrics and sung these lyrics, the moment you start listening to it, you already know like what we're listening to, what's going on, like what you're talking about. And I think that's like so important when with songwriting. I think the way to like, it's funny because now that I think about it, it's like how social media is, where you have to captivate the audience like within those first 2-3 seconds, and you kind of do that with the song. So as far as the writing process goes, like, did you change it up much to finalize it to what we hear today, or was this literally just what naturally flowed out of you?
this is what was written in that session. It was like a 2-hour session. So all the
Yeah.
lyrics are the same, all the melodies the same. We wrote it on piano, so it sounded much more like it potentially could be pitched to anybody if like dressed up the right way. But then I sent it to my friend Karen, who produced it, and he kind of, messed with the chords and made it, really fit my emo aesthetic.
And with this arrangement, this another thing that I love about the single, the arrangement is amazing. Like, is that something that you kind of, throughout the entire time, you said, okay, this is the sound I kind of want, or did Karen step in and help you out with discovering what kind of sound would fit perfectly with Someone Else?
Well, me and Karen have a funny relationship. I've known him for 7 years. Like, we've been making music for 7 years. So I don't tell him anything. I just like give him the bare bones of the song. I gave him like a piano vocal demo, and I did not give him any instructions. And he came back with that. So he has like a really weird way of sort of, we have a telepathy musical thing. I think he just understands my musicality and artistry so well at this point, where it's also really fun to like not give any direction and just like see how he interprets what I'm trying to put out there. And that's what this was. And I think it made perfect sense.
And like the fact that you went from being in a band to doing the solo, being a solo act, and again going back to that vulnerability level, like, was that something that was comfortable for you to just like jump into with this song in particular, or did you find yourself having to kind of test things out before you were able to open up the way that you did with this track?
The opening up wasn't hard, but I think I was very afraid of going back into the artist thing for a while. I think I got very comfortable just sort of like being on the sidelines and being a writer and, letting myself speak for other people. So I feel like it's sort of been maybe 8 months of me kind of sitting on these songs that I have, being like, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? And then eventually just being like, I should just do it. and, just get it out there. So that part feels more scary to me than actually like writing about my anxiety or depression or like, hard things that I've been through,
Right.
which is kind of interesting. So like, me talking to you about it, no big deal. Me having to, make a whole EP about it and hope that people don't hate it. That's a real, anxiety trigger.
And did you find yourself kind of rediscovering your voice now that you are a solo artist, or is this is you, like this is your voice, this is how you sing, these are your ranges, like from the get-go?
I think I have rediscovered a lot in a way. The band I was in before, it was very pop punk, so I sort of feel like I maybe shifted my voice in order to fit what that genre called for. Like it was much more aggressive. I was higher up all the time, and stepping away from it, I feel like I've sort of gone into full circle where I've gotten more in touch with like who I am at my core as a writer. Like I've always written sort of, vulgar lyrics and like was very much into shock value and just saying shit to get people riled up. And I think I've gotten to this place lyrically where I still like to do that, but it comes from more of like, oh, this is an adult reflecting on like crazy stuff that's happening rather than an 18-year-old kid being like, I just want to make you feel weird while I'm saying to you. And I feel like, as being just a writer in Nashville too, I've been writing like a bunch of different styles, which I think has naturally like forced my voice to be different and sort of find where it fits naturally when it's not trying to be in like a pop punk sector. So yeah, completely. It's totally full. Yeah.
And the fact that you are, a writer in Nashville and having these different genres to kind of work with every so often, how do you feel that impacts your storytelling, the way that you think about whatever you're going to start writing about, and then the way that you actually execute it?
Ooh, I write completely differently since being here. I feel like Nashville is such a storytelling community, which is great. And it's very concept driven. So I used to never go into a song being like, oh, this is what I'm going to write about. I used to just kind of, barf it up and let it, make sense whenever it was going to make sense. And now I go like with someone else, like I went into that session and was like, I have this idea of, mental health being like this unwanted house guest that you can't get rid of. And then whoops, surprise, it's actually you, which, is a total concept idea. And I've been doing that a lot more since I've been here. So Nashville has definitely rubbed off on me a little.
Now, this is like the first taste that we get of your music, and you did mention an EP in the works. So are you basically telling the listeners the story of Emily on this EP? Like what can they expect, and like how do you feel, or who do you feel you are with this EP compared to previous stuff that you've done in the past?
This EP will be called Sex and Depression, and will sort of go through the different facets of my personality that like span my sexuality and my mental health, because I feel like in a lot of ways they can be related. So it'll be like 6 songs like breaking down like different versions of that. Wow. Yeah, so it'll definitely be like a good chunk of me, not everything, but very much like those two important parts of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you see this like in the works for this year? Is that something that you're starting to record? Like what is the process of this so far?
It's sort of in a rolling process. So someone else was done, the next single is done. And then the other 3 are currently in production. So I'm hoping, I'm going to say this out loud, and then, sort of single every 6 weeks until the EP comes in the summer. And I have music to color synesthesia too, which I don't know if you've noticed on my social media, like everything about someone else is purple. So
Yeah.
each single will also have like a different color palette to go with it to sort of like really hammer in the, different aspects of how everything works together and like kind of conflicts and doesn't always fit. So, which I feel like, I'm kind of a conflicting individual. I'm a Gemini sometimes. So I feel like that part of me will definitely come across to people with this one. It's cool.
And what kind of challenges are you facing though, being, you're doing this all yourself? Like there's no additional band members aside from the producer. So like what have been the challenges that you've kind of faced to create the music that you have so far?
The main one has been money.
Mm.
When you're in a band, everything gets split 5 ways, and it is just me right now. You know, no label, no publisher, just, you know, no financial backing. So that has probably been the biggest challenge. It's forced me to really prioritize and be creative where I can be. So it's not all bad, but, you know, and definitely lack of management is always hard for indie artists, because I feel like, you know, as an artist, you know, hopefully that's the thing that you're the best at. But when you're doing it by yourself, you also have to wear all the different hats. And if you don't have that knowledge on how all that works, it can be a really grueling, frustrating learning process. You know, like social media, how does that work? I don't know. I'm just like like shooting blanks all the time, hoping that like something catches somebody's attention. Um, but it's also cool. I don't know, not being in a band this time around too. It's everything is 100 million% my vision. So even though it's definitely more frustrating not having as many people to bounce ideas off of, it's also very cool to know that like it's 100% me,
Oh,
whatever
you.
comes out of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's amazing. Now, did you find, lastly, to close us off, like during the process of whether it was someone else or the next single or this entire EP, did you find yourself rediscovering something about you or discovering something about you that you didn't know existed, whether it was like a way of writing or a vocal range or like an instrument that you play? And if so, like what was it and how did you kind of discover that?
That's a really good question. Um, I feel like I'm like constantly self-reflecting. I'm like one of those people who's like, how am I feeling? Like, what's happening right now? But I feel like I really rediscovered a part of myself more than discovered a new part. Because I was pretty disillusioned with, you know, the pop punk scene and emo when I'd quit my band. Like there were all those sexual assault cases coming out. Like
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
yeah, like a lot of sexism was really apparent. I wasn't getting anywhere. I felt like I'd hit a ceiling. So I was just very, very, very bitter about that part of my life. And I was bitter about the songs that I had written that had, you know, kind of been very much a part of that. So when I moved here, it was, I'm going to write pop songs. I'm not emo anymore. I'm going to break away from this. I can write about things that aren't depression, I promise.
I thought it wasn't a phase.
Yeah. And then when I started, you know, writing for myself again, I re-tapped into what had made me fall in love with writing to begin with, which was writing like all of those emo songs. So I feel like that has been really refreshing, really cool. I feel like I've more like rediscovered like who I am as a musician and like tapped back into when I was 18 and just like more fearless about it and didn't care as much what people thought. And I think I'm back in a place like that again, which is great. So
Amazing. Well, welcome back.
thank you. Thanks.
Welcome back.
Good to be here.
I'm glad that the song created like happened because I love what you've done so far. I know it's the debut single, but like I feel like there's so much more incredible songwriting coming out of you, and like your the way that your voice goes along with it like is perfect. So it's like I would hate to not hear this voice anymore. So like I'm glad that you are not just sticking to songwriting and you're still pursuing the artist aspect as well.
Thank you. Thanks. It'll be a ride for sure.
Well, I'm definitely a new fan thanks to you. So thank you for that introduction once again. And I can't wait for more.
Thanks. I'm a fan of you too.
Crazy.
Very much so. You talk to everybody. So even just talking to you is like such an honor. Like I can't hold up to Ariana, but you know what?
But at the end of the day, like pop punk is why this all started. New Found Glory is the reason for my existence, as I tell everyone. And it's like, that's the reason why Punk Videos Rock started and why I do what I do. So, I mean, it all goes back to the artist. So, you know, at the same time, thank you. We can go back and forth all day.
I know. If you keep thanking me, I'm going to keep thanking you back.
We'll find new reasons and excuses.